Hi everyone, today I'd like to discuss what I would consider to be probably one of the most heated and controversial debates right now, and that would be the inclusion of transgender women in sports. This directly affects the world of sports and competition, and in sports, the biggest goal has always been fairness. But if fairness is the goal, how exactly do we go about defining fairness for transgender athletes? Well, this speech is going to explore the biological perspective on trans women in sports, and we'll look at the scientific evidence behind this issue and see how we can apply it to find a balance between not only fairness and safety, but also inclusivity. Sports are separated based on biological sex due to physical characteristics between males and females. But if other athletes are able to compete with those of the same gender identity, why can't trans athletes? So to help meet this need, the International Olympic Committee made the choice in 2004 to start allowing athletes to compete in the sport of their identified gender. And really, I would argue that most people who agree with my perspective on this argument would be all for the inclusion of trans athletes if only they weren't consistently beating biological females in their sports. Take, for instance, Mary Gregory, a trans woman who in 2019 dominated a weightlifting competition among biological females. She competed in 9 events that day and won all 9, while also setting 4 world records that day. Another example would be Andrea Yearwood and Terry Miller, 2 male-to-female athletes from Connecticut. In 2018, they were the only trans competitors, and they took first and second place in their 55-meter race. The following year, the same 2 competitors, the same 2 only trans people at the competition, placed first and second yet again. And if that wasn't enough, both athletes still hold state records for track in the women's division. But by no means are these athletes the only of their kind. We've seen many cases of transgender competitors dominating women's sports recently. You may have heard of Leah Thomas or Laurel Hubbard, and if not, I really encourage you to look into their stories as well. Also, if you can check up on weightlifting records of males and females of comparable heights and weights, you can really see that there's much more at play than just size giving males this advantage. And it's clear that trans athletes do pose a concern for equal and fair competition for females. And really, there's a biological basis that supports that. So let's talk about the various advantages that males have over females. Most people are aware that males have more testosterone than women, which is also a big reason why they have much less body fat and much more lean body mass. You might also be able to surmise that males tend to have larger and longer bones, but really how big of an advantage is that? Well, just a few examples. In swimming, that gives them a longer, wider wingspan, and in basketball, they have longer fingers to grip the ball. In throwing, you get more momentum with longer arms. Furthermore, the connective structures of males are far superior as well when it comes to athletics. They have stiffer tissues, greater tendon strength, denser muscles, and on top of that, they have larger respiratory structures and higher blood volume so they can receive and process oxygen much faster during aerobic exercise. And these are just a few of the countless physical advantages that males have over females in sports. But let's discuss the other side of the argument. So many advocates for the other side argue that most trans athletes are required to have their testosterone levels tested prior to competition. However, what many people don't know is that the International Olympic Committee only requires athletes to have testosterone levels less than 10 nanomoles per liter, whereas the average woman only has 2 nanomoles per liter. That's 5 times the amount. But even if these levels were equal, testosterone levels don't even begin to make up for all of the immutable physical characteristics we discussed earlier. And another major viewpoint is that if we were to put policies in place to regulate transgender women in sports, it would be a sort of targeting or even transphobia towards them. Instead, they call for the evaluation of the safety and fairness on more of a case-by-case basis, depending on each athlete's individual circumstances. But unfortunately, allowing such a subjective approach to regulating our sports can really set the scene for unfair treatment among fellow trans athletes. For example, if a sports committee wants to make a prejudice decision against someone because they've been bribed, they have full range to be doing that and disqualify someone who doesn't have the same connections. And for this reason, it's really necessary to have clearly identified standards for competition. With such a complex argument as this one, there really is not a perfect fix. Trans women deserve to feel accepted and included by the community of people who share the same gender as them. However, on the other hand, biological females do have a right to compete on an even playing field. And in the end, fairness and safety really need to outweigh any desire for inclusion when we're talking about the arena of competitive sports. For this reason, it's critical that males and females compete in separate sports divisions. But where exactly does that leave trans women? Is it safe for them to compete alongside cisgender males who don't have the handicap of hormone replacement therapy or puberty blockers? It's not. one possible solution to this issue would be a specific athletic division for trans women. This seems like the most fair compromise because it would allow trans athletes to compete fairly without compromising the opportunities and the safety of cisgender women. So when we're faced with the issue of how athletes should be divided, the answer is clear. Biological sex is the most effective method of grouping for the promotion of safety and equality in sports. With that being said, the topic of transgender inclusion in competitive sports is a heated one. For that reason, it's really essential that arguments are delivered with both respect and understanding for those who agree with you. However, I really encourage all of you to have this discussion with your friends and family if you're comfortable, and put anything you've learned from this speech to use and form your own opinion if this isn't something you've really considered before. Thank you.